My body went against my will as I slackened against him, limp as a rag doll, as his eyes bored straight into mine. Mychael's smile was manic. That's it, Firefly. I've caught you now. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Hey all you cool creatures. I'm Cryptid. Welcome to the Cryptid Plays YouTube channel. And today we are playing Mushroom Oasis. Content warning. This game contains screen shaking, small jump scares, as well as depictions of mind and memory manipulation, hypnosis, needles, blood, and death. Player discretion is advised. So viewer discretion is also advised. Now, this is a visual novel. It is a demo at the moment. It only contains days 1 and 2, and it was a submission for Yandere Jam of 2023. But what it is about is that your beloved cat has been missing for a few days. You suspect she has run off into the woods across the street. Now, the forest wasn't known to be dangerous. It was quite peaceful, in fact. But her being an indoor pet has you worried. Though you are an indoor person yourself, you wind up wandering far deeper than you intended. Lucky for you, a kind but odd-looking stranger stumbled upon you before anything bad happened. Let's hope he only has good intentions in bringing you home. Well, I guess with that out of the way, let's get started. What is your name? As always, it is Cryptid. What's your cat's name? Ooh, that's tough. Miette. And your cat is... Oh, I could have chosen... okay, so the description says she, but it can be either. Well, let's just go with female then. Miette has been missing for a while now. She was an indoor cat, but had the tenacity of a wild cat on a mission trying to leave whenever the door was open. Catios and playtime just wasn't enough for the little missus. I figured she'd come running if I left out some food by the porch. 3 days later, still no cat. I've tried everything I could think of. Asking around the neighborhood, putting up missing cat posters. Oh, by the way, before I go any further, this is actually by the same creator as of Lift Your Spirits, the one with that adorable ghost. So I'm sure that our yandere love interest in this is going to be adorable. Sadly, nothing came from my efforts. I couldn't search for her during the day since I had work keeping me occupied. And there's only so many hours in an evening I could yell around the streets looking for her. There was only one place I could think of that she might have ran off to. The woods, by my house, right across the street. I've definitely caught her eyeing the birds and squirrels that ran alongside the perimeters from the front window, her teeth clicking in excitement. I was no outdoorsy person by any means. In fact, the thought of going in there scares me. But I had to find her. Or at least try. The first weekend that came around, I packed up some water, Miette's favorite treats, and a compass to be safe. I wasn't sure where to even begin looking for her, so I started walking in a straight line, calling out her name every few steps. It certainly didn't take long for me to realize I was way in over my head. Why did I think this was a good idea? It was hard to find my bearings within the surrounding trees. I didn't want to admit I was lost, at least not yet. I could only squint down at my compass as the needle spun slowly. Pretty sure they weren't made to do that. Did I really bring a busted compass on my first venture out into these woods? Figured that would be just my luck. The only thing risking my own safety was my own incompetence. I shook my head hastily. No. No time for negativity. Mychael was out there somewhere, cold and lost and hungry. I had to keep going. It's been hours. I'm so lost. I don't even know why I kept searching even after the moment I'd realized that. Why did I think this was a good idea? Hunger had been gnawing at my stomach for a while now, having missed breakfast and lunch altogether. The heat and humidity from the afternoon sun was unbearable, but the cooling air did nothing to soothe me. Even if I were to head home, I couldn't even pinpoint where that was. What do people even do in this situation? I knew it was baseless optimism, but walking onwards was really the only thing I could think of to do. Surely I'll come across something familiar. I trudged on, my shoes carefully avoiding the tree roots intertwined across the forest floor. But in my weakened state, plus the approaching darkness, I found myself stumbling through the rough terrain. My feet hit something soft, jutting out of the ground. Ah! My hands shot out as I lost my balance. My feet clumsily tried to find purchase as I wobbled backwards, arms flapping. What? My shoe had landed smack dab in a circle of mushrooms, the brunt of it causing a wispy cloud to erupt from the cluster. I stuck my nose in my elbow to avoid breathing it in. I couldn't differentiate one tree leaf from another for the life of me, but I'm pretty sure humans aren't supposed to inhale whatever the hell this was. I mean, spores, I assume. It smelled strongly of rotten wood and wet dirt, even as it cleared. Something shiny quickly caught my attention. I stooped down to pick it up, gasping under my breath. It was Mychael's collar, covered in whatever the hell those mushrooms released. I looked around desperately for any signs of her. Mychael? Mychael? Psst, 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 psst. I coughed from inhaling some of the remaining dust floating in the air. I should really steer clear from this. Pocketing Mychael's collar, I retreated carefully until I could breathe again. Stepping back, I could still smell it. It must have stuck to my hair and clothes. A quick once-over confirmed my suspicion with a slight cringe. A thin yet generous coating of it covered my sleeves and jeans. I leaned against a tree, dusting off my clothes in a naive attempt to get the dust and smell out. To no avail. If anything, it felt like I'm breathing more of it in. What used to be musty now turned sweet, and I found myself inhaling even deeper, trying to pinpoint the smell. cucumbers? It smelled like fresh cucumbers. A tingly feeling crept up my hands and neck, pinpricks spreading across my limbs as a strange heat reached my face. I started to feel drunk and woozy. My senses were numb. It should freak me out. I like how now when we refer to ourselves it's in purple. And yet, a strange comfort washed over me. I should lie down. Right now, in fact. My legs gave out from underneath me, my body toppling over at an awkward angle. I laid there and stared, and stared, and stared. It was nice here. A peaceful calm. The perfect place for a nap, even. My eyes grew heavy as I swam in and out of consciousness. Yeah, a nap sounds really good right about now. Oh. Sorry this happened to you, little one. By the will of the forest, may you rest in peace. Wait, human? How'd you end up all the way out here? Still breathing, too. Aw, jeez. I can't leave you here. What should I do? I woke up with a jolt. It was warm, but comfortably so. I could feel the weight of a blanket on me as I tried to sit up. I couldn't move my body. By the way, yes, there are multiple endings in this. 3 bad ones and 1 that will progress the story, so we are going to get all of those. My fingers twitched uselessly at my sides as my eyes darted around in panic. Glancing about, I could see the interior of a cabin, or at least the ceiling of one. I couldn't see much past the corners of my eyes. Where was I? How did I get here? A desperate feeling rose in my chest. I had to leave. Right now. This was wrong, wrong, wrong. I wasn't meant to be here. I could hear the crackling of a fire nearby, likely the source of warmth I had felt on waking up. I could also hear footsteps approaching. I don't actually know what's the best choice, so let's pretend to be asleep. I shut my eyes quickly, hoping they hadn't noticed. I slowed down my breathing, willing my face muscles to stay still. From beside me, someone chuckled softly. I already know you're awake, Firefly. Come on now. I'm not gonna hurt you. Oh, what a cutie. I fluttered my eyelids, straining to look at the person approaching. My eyes widened as I took in their appearance, the protrusions from their forehead catching my attention. Not to mention the green skin. The stranger didn't sense my unease as they heaved a sigh of relief. You're awake. That's good. Very, very good. How are you feeling? I blinked. Oh, sorry. I forgot about that. Here. The person held a cup to my lips, a strong, sweet smell coming from the rim. A gentle hand grabbed my chin to open my mouth. I couldn't even move to resist. Don't worry. It'll help you feel better. I promise. Drink up. As the liquid hit my tongue, all I could feel was a vague sense of heat. As I kept drinking, taste and texture returned, the sweetness of berries and chamomile coating my taste buds. I could even detect a hint of mint. I lifted my head finally, hands fisting at my sides as I propped myself onto my elbows. The person kept a steady hand on my chin, careful not to pour in too much, in case I choked. I finished every last drop, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand. I stared at my fingers, realizing I had full autonomy over my body again. Oh my god! Look at that little mushroom. I don't know if it's a cat, but it's so cute. Good as new. Now, how are you feeling? Better. Thank you. Those ears, that smile. The stranger laughed. Oh, I like the way you sound. Been ages since I've talked to anyone, much less with a voice as nice as yours. I brushed off their strange compliments, finally looking around the cabin properly. It was a simple room, filled with sparse but decorated wooden furniture, fit for someone living alone. I'm gonna go back and see what they say when we, just stay awake instead of pretending to be asleep real quick, because I have absolutely no idea if it has any bearing on the endings. Stay awake. I fluttered my eyelids, straining to look at the person approaching. My eyes widened as I took in their appearance, the protrusions from their forehead catching my attention. Not to mention the green skin. The stranger didn't sense my unease as they heaved a sigh of relief. Okay, so it just basically went to when we saw them. Back here again. An open archway to the right led to what I assumed was the kitchen. Next to it, a door was closed shut. Possibly the bathroom? Taking it in, there was a common theme of knitted decoration strewn about. Any available surface had patterned, knitted tablecloths covering it. An unfinished project laid beside the bedside table where I sat. A pair of knitting needles jutting out of a pile of yarn from a small basket. As far as I could tell, it looked like the beginnings of a green scarf. The stranger was comfortable in staying silent, observing me as I glanced around. They tossed their hat onto the bed, scruffing their hair and making it even messier. Oh, that's so cute. So it was a hat. Oh my gosh, I love that. With their hat off, their unique features were impossible to ignore. Sorry, but what are you? Oh, I didn't introduce myself, did I? Hiya, I'm Mychael, with a Y. I shook my head. No, I meant that, Mychael stared at me, their left ear twitching. You look very... He snorted. No! How could you say that, Mychael? Ugly. Off-putting. No! Just different. Different, huh? You're just being nice. Well then, explain yourself. I mean, That's kind of rude, isn't it? I paused for a moment before pinching my nose bridge, exhaling slowly. I'm just... sorry. It's been a long day is all. We are being a little rude, though. I should be thanking you. If it helps, it's a skin condition? Is that what you humans call them? The way they said it didn't sound confident. And the ears? Genetics? Right. And I assume the little... I waved vaguely at their horns, antennae. Those things are just cosplay to complete the look. Would that make a convincing argument? I squinted. Maybe. Then, yeah, it's cosplay. Still doesn't explain everything. Mychael huffed a nervous laugh. Listen, I'm just a guy living by himself in the woods. You don't need to worry yourself further than that, okay? Something in his tone compelled you not to question his existence anymore. I like the weird static we're hearing. He's just some guy living in the woods. Completely normal. Right. Completely normal. I'm cryptid. Mychael beamed. Nice to meet you, cryptid. I fiddled with the blankets as Mychael scooted closer from the edge of the bed. I know I already asked, but how are you feeling? Any aches? Sores? Nausea? Intrusive thoughts? Weird impulses? Fever? Maybe? I don't... He placed his hand on my forehead before I could react. Okay, so all we said is, I don't think. His hands were calloused, quickly retracting as he gave a thoughtful hum. You seem to be lucid. That's a good sign. Great. He hummed absently, his twitching ear reminding me of a perturbed cat. Cat. My cat! Oh, shoot. Sorry if this is out of nowhere, but have you seen a cat around these parts? Her name's Miette. She's a sweet little thing, about this big, skittish, but she can approach strangers if she needs to. I pulled out my phone to show pictures of her, only to find it missing from my back pocket. Wait, where is... I haven't... Huh? Your cat. I haven't seen it. Oh, I see. I slumped against the pillows, rubbing at my temples. He better not have, eaten our cat or something. She lost her collar, too. Even if anyone finds her, they wouldn't be able to tell where she's from. Damn it. Mychael stayed quiet, watching me from the side of the bed. You came all the way out here for a cat? Huh? Of course. To the point where you're willing to run yourself ragged this deep in the forest? For a cat? Do you realize how far you've wandered away from the nearest town? I found you near unconscious, in an area nobody set foot in for years. For a cat? He sounded like he was holding himself back from giving me a stern lecture, as if in disbelief I had such little regard to my own survival. My cheeks grew heated at how stupid reckless that sounds. I mean, she's not just a cat, she's my family. I know it was stupid for even trying, but I had to. Mychael eased up, shoulders tense as he looked me over from underneath his unruly bangs. Family, huh? He finally tipped his head at me with a smile. You're willing to wander this far for such a small critter? I've met my fair share of lost campers, hunters, and a few runaway teens or two. But someone looking for their pet? You're kinda weird, aren't you? I sputtered, much to his amusement. Speak for yourself. Who cosplays in the middle of the woods? Mychael laughed, a deep, hearty one resounding from his chest. Fair. I think I'm starting to like you, Cryptid. Likewise? His smile widened, but something about it was off. He was showing too much teeth. It felt like he hadn't talked to someone in a real long time and forgot how to smile the right amount. I rubbed my neck, trying to think of something else to say. Can I ask? How did I get here? Oh, like I said, I found you in the woods, not far from here. Oh, geez, really? I knew I was tired, but I couldn't have possibly... I did step in something. Something important. Familiar pinpricks crept up my skin. Home. I need to go home. Mychael stiffened as he grabbed my shoulder. Never mind that. You'd fallen unconscious from heat stroke. Heat stroke? No, that wasn't what happened. I wasn't. I was fine up until... Mychael shook his head insistently, leaning close. No, Firefly, you weren't fine at all. If I hadn't found you when I did, well, who knows what could have happened. You could have gotten injured or attacked by a wild animal. There's danger in these woods, you know. No, he was right. You had been so foolish. How did you think you could do this on your own? Searching for your cat in the middle of the woods? And to go in without bringing any water? Passing out from heat stroke of all things. How could you have been so stupid? I shook my head, brain too foggy to pick apart my thoughts. He sounded confident, so why should you doubt him? Well, If it means anything, I'm glad you were there. Mychael relaxed, hand on his lap once more. He grinned at me. So am I, cryptid. I'm definitely glad I found you. His eyes were hidden fully behind his unruly hair, but I couldn't help feeling how intensely they were fixated onto me as he said that. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Sure. Without a distraction, I've only just realized how uncomfortable I was sitting still. The blanket on me was starting to itch, just as the desperate need to get home began to rise in me again. This was interesting, but I should really get going now. Wait! My host jumped up from the bed before I could. I mean, you can't, I can't just let you wander around in the woods this late. Please, stay for a bit longer. But Mychael, I really come. He grabbed my hand and led me across the room. We stepped into the kitchen, a fragrant smell of cooked potatoes and meat hanging in the air. 2 plates had been set out on a small circular table, complete with utensils and mugs of tea. I wasn't expecting guests today, so the food is nothing fancy. But join me for dinner. He looked so hopeful, ears drooping, and he's taking control again. You'd feel so bad if you had to say no. Say no anyways. I ignored the pleading voice in the back of my head, stealing my resolve. Strangely enough, the second I made up my mind, the faint static that fogged my thoughts cleared instantly, only replaced with the urgent need to go back home. Mychael goes quiet, his grip on my hand tightening before he loosens his hold. I see. If that's what you want. But, are you really sure? Yes, it's what I'm meant to do. His ears flattened at my words. He laughs an empty laugh, mouth twisting into a crooked grimace. Surely you wouldn't mind sitting down for a quick meal. Just a bite, even. Please. His hands fisted at his sides. Do you really have to go? Yes! Mychael stared at me as if looking for something. Finally, he sighed in defeat. All right. I guess I can't keep you here. Not anymore. Let me lead you outside. Mychael ushered me towards the back door, swinging it open as he sidestepped to let me out. The chill breeze crept along my arms. I turned towards him one last time. Thanks again for everything. He was silent for a moment, staring past me into the trees. You're welcome. Be careful on your way back. I'm sorry there's not much more I could do for you. He's been nothing but gracious. It's strange for a farewell, but I was too occupied with the thoughts of returning home to care. I looked over to the woods. The shadows cast from the moonlight causing some hesitation in me. do you mind giving me some directions as a head start? Mychael looked at me finally, then to the horizon with the tilt of his chin. Keep heading in that direction. You'll come across a trail that'll lead you straight home. I waved at him as he shut the door, the mechanism locking shut with a click. I stood there for a moment, questioning if I had made the right decision or not. Another urgent thought compelled me to leave. This is no place for me. I have to go. It was already too late to go back, so I gathered my resolve and walked away. I walked and walked. Trees blended into one another after a while. I should have been afraid or concerned, but it felt right. The darkness that surrounded me was too comforting for me to feel in danger. I steered away from the direction Mychael showed me ages ago, my feet willingly carrying my body to someplace specific, someplace special. A final destination. Here, the patch of mushrooms I had stepped in earlier. I was meant to be here. I've always meant to be here. I laid down in the cold, wet dirt and closed my eyes. There's not much I could do if the forest had staked its claim on you, Firefly. I wish I'd found you sooner. Sleep well, cryptid. Ending 1. Peaceful slumber. Oh, lovely. Alright, so right here I'm gonna say, actually dinner sounds really good right now. Also, I'm sorry that the voice I gave him is kind of silly, but since I've started with that voice, I'm just gonna continue with it. Actually, dinner sounds really, really good right now. Mychael's jaw dropped for a second before he quickly recovered. Yes, of course. Here, come sit. I'll serve up the cottage pie in a minute. I sat as instructed, my stomach rumbling something fierce as the smell was the only thing I could focus on. Yes, this was definitely the right choice. What was so important that you had to leave so soon? The outside world can wait. So, does this change at all if we just directly say yes to dinner? Hold on. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to stay. Okay, that's the same. Let me go back a little further. Say yes. Oh, okay, so this is all the same. Yes, this was definitely the right choice. What was so important that you had to leave so soon? The outside world can wait. You could stay here and enjoy my company. Oh, that's creepy. Oh, actually, I should ask, are you okay with meat for dinner? I could make something else for you if that's not your preference. I mean, I do eat meat. Let's say I'm okay with meat. We'll see what the other one does in a second. Oh, okay. You'll be having the same dinner as me then. Mychael pattered about the small kitchen with an almost giddy excitement. He put on a pair of knitted oven mitts, humming as he stooped down and pulled out a steaming tray of pie from the wood stove. The smell! It filled out the kitchen in an instant as he brought it to the table, my stomach rumbling louder in response. I'm pretty sure Mychael could hear it, but he just smiled as he served up our portions. He discreetly cut me a bigger piece, which I was grateful for. It looked so good. The crust was a nice golden color, streaked with crisp lines and garnish. The meat and veggie filling looked absolutely delectable, the savory sauce leaking onto the plate. My mouth was watering, unsurprising considering the fact I haven't eaten all day. Careful now, it's still hot. It was fair advice, but I didn't wait more than 2 blows before biting into my first forkful. It was definitely way too hot to eat straight from the oven. Mychael kept a polite expression, the corner of his mouth lifting as I panted with the piece still in my mouth. He gave me a few seconds to recover, elbow planted on the table. Is it good? I nodded vigorously, even though my taste buds were burning. I couldn't taste anything. He laughed. It's usually better on the second bite. I slowed down, hand on my mouth as Mychael poked his fork into his own slice. I tentatively blew on the pie to make sure it was cool before taking another bite. He was right. The second bite was a lot better. The seasoned potato crust was nice and crisp on top, cheesy and creamy in the middle. The savory meat filling was well cooked and bursting with flavor. Every bite felt like home. My host watched me enjoy the meal from across the table. Do you like it? Yeah, this tastes amazing, Mychael. That smile got real cute. He flushed from the compliment, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm glad to think of myself as a decent cook, but I've never been able to get anyone else's opinion on that. Do you like baking in particular? Not always. I usually go for simple dishes with any ingredients available. I nodded amicably, though didn't say much else. I was more focused on scarfing down my dinner, which thankfully Mychael didn't seem to mind. The overall atmosphere was nice and homely, and I could hear Mychael tapping his feet from underneath the table. I guess he was that happy to have someone stay for dinner. It did seem like he lived alone, judging from the surroundings in his cabin. So, I'm kinda curious. He perked up instantly, his focus solely on me. What made you want to live all the way out here? Oh, well, when you look at me, it's kinda easier to just live out of sight from everyone else. A pang of guilt shot through my chest. I was giving him a hard time about how he looked too. He must have sensed it clear as day on my face. Not that you're one of them. You've actually been nicer than most. Though I wonder if... His smile turned strained. Never mind. My point is, it's better here than anywhere else. Why don't you try the tea, Firefly? He seemed uncomfortable now, easing into a different topic. It's probably best to follow along. Oh, sure. I reached out towards my mug. Oops, only to push it off the edge with my clumsy fingers. Wait! I bent over the side to grab it, fully expecting it to fall just out of reach and land on the floor into broken pieces. It never did. Instead, a long green appendage was twisted around the ceramic mug, securely keeping it in place. Not even a drop had fallen out. Does he have a tail? My eyes trailed along the length of it until I pinpointed that it came from behind Mychael, the rest of it partially hidden beneath his cardigan. Mychael? Is that yours? Oh no, baby! Mychael buried his face in his hands, the strange appendage from before lowering to his side, mug in tow. I'm sorry, Cryptid. I think it's time I was honest. He lifted his head, fingers carding his hair back to reveal his eyes. I froze as two, no, multiple pairs of irises stared right into mine before darting down to the side and avoiding my gaze. I know it's a lot to take in, but this is who I really am. Please, please don't be scared. Well, freaking out is the wrong decision, so let's freak out. Monster! I flinched as his eyes thinned into sharp slits. I hate this. No, please don't. You're a monster. Cryptid. I kicked back against the chair, letting it clatter to the ground as I scrambled to the living room. We are a jerk in this route. He was a freak. How did I ever let him get close to me? I had to escape. Now. I ran to the door furthest into the room, hoping it was the exit, rattling the doorknob desperately. It was locked shut. Cryptid, please. I abandoned the front door and ran to the window by the bed, my fingernails scraping against the sill. It was sealed tight, the lock barely budging as I tried to twist it with my fingers. Heavy boots slowly came closer behind me. I spun around to see him by the edge of the doorway, hands up in a careful stance. Cryptid, please calm down. I'm begging you, just let me explain. Stay away from me. My eyes landed on the basket on the bedside table, the needles glinting against the firelight. Oh my god, are we really going to attack this poor guy in his own house? Oh my god. Take them. I grasped both needles and pulled them from the yarn, the basket dropping to the floor in my haste. Holding them to my chest, I stepped back as Mychael came closer, eyes wild as he realized what I held. Hey, look at me, Cryptid. You don't want to do this. You're gonna hurt yourself. Let go of those things. Attack him! Oh god. He was right. If you were carefully aiming blindly, I lunged forward. Oh no. Oh my god. Okay. Quite frankly, I think because we reacted this way, he deserves to be able to actually, fight back, maybe take our life. I don't know, but this is messed up. I'm not enjoying this. It's for the game. It is to get all of the endings. He probably wasn't expecting it because he hardly moved as I stabbed them straight through his chest. A choked sound made past his lips before he collapsed, his disgusting pair of eyes dazedly searching the room for me. I hate this choice. This is the worst choice. I don't care if he is a yandere. He's at least a nice one. Cryptid? I can't see you. I backed away, my breath lodged in my throat. That's okay. I know you can hear me. This hurts so much. He wheezed out a pained laugh. You know, I was so alone. When you came along, I was so happy just to talk to someone, to have dinner with someone. You even liked my cooking. I really thought you would be different. Did you really hate the way I looked that much? He laughed bitterly once more, spitting out some blood. I hope we feel guilty. This poor guy. Oh, God. Why do I keep lying to myself? This has always been my fate since the beginning. At least I got one wish. I'm not dying alone. Cryptid, are you there? Please, I'm getting cold. Tell me you're there. I didn't realize I had tears streaming down my face. Yeah, we better feel freaking guilty. We're murderers. This is messed up. He sounded so pathetic. I stared down at my hands. The hands that hurt Mychael. Had I made a mistake? A sputtered cough snapped my attention back to him. I think this is goodbye, Cryptid. By the will of the forest, I... He cast one last breath, the sound rattling across the empty cabin as his eyes glassed over completely. I sunk to my knees, hands still shaking. What have I done? Ending 2. You monster. We are a monster. I hated every second of that. Alright, let's listen to him. He was right. If you weren't careful, you could hurt yourself. Your hold on the needles slipped, your ears picking up the sound of them clattering to the floor. Defenseless, I faced Mychael as he stepped closer. I couldn't stop staring at those eyes. Those beautiful eyes, you mean? He's beautiful. How could you be like this? They looked wide with panic. Okay, listen to me. Everything's gonna be all right. Stay away from me, you freak. Why? Do you hate me that much? Can't we just start over? I shook my head, backing away from him. Just let me leave. I don't want to be anywhere near you. Mychael stopped advancing, hands fisting at his sides. Oh, okay. That's okay. I'll let you go. I screamed as his arms wrapped around me. All I could do was twist in his hold. I could feel something tightening around my legs, his grip on my chin forcing me to look at his face. Let go of me. Let go. Static. All I could hear was static. Damn, those eyes are amazing. My body went against my will as I slackened against him, limp as a rag doll, as his eyes bored straight into mine. Mychael's smile was manic. That's it, Firefly. I've caught you now. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Of course. Of course, everything's fine. What did you have to worry about anyways? It was just your dear, sweet friend, Mychael. Trustworthy Mychael. Safe and sound, Mychael. He was all that you needed. That's right. Settle in, Firefly. I'll take good care of you. I promise. I can't have the real you, but I'll willingly play pretend if it means I get to keep you. Your name is Cryptid. You live in the woods with your best friend, Mychael. You love Mychael, and he loves you. You've never had a job. You've never had a cat. You've never left these woods. You never had a home anywhere else. You already are home. Hey, Firefly, you want to help with dinner today? Of course you do. Come on. Ending 3, playing pretend. So I think these were the 3 bad endings, and then we're gonna have the story progression one, but I want to get a couple of other choices before we head on to that one. All right, let's see. What happens if we just leave the needles? Defenseless, I faced Mychael as he stepped closer. I couldn't stop staring at those eyes. They looked wide with panic. Alright, I think he's just gonna tackle us. Okay, yeah, so this is the same. Alright, before we continue on to the next progression, let's just say we don't eat meat, because I want to see what he does. Good thing I asked. Thanks for letting me know. Let me pick some veggies from the garden and I'll make you something. He left out the back door with a basket, coming back inside surprisingly quick with a smile on his face. I expected him to toss something into a bowl and have it done just like that. But apparently he had other plans. I watched as he washed the veggies thoroughly, before chopping them up with an extra sharp knife, setting them aside and pulling out a container from one of the cabinets. He set a pan on the stove and oiled it up, tossing in half of the ingredients and seasoning them with some herbs and spices, while a pot boils next to it. The small kitchen quickly filled up with the smell of his cooking. My mouth was already watering in response. I twiddled with the fork on the table, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut. Luckily, I didn't have to wait long. Before I knew it, Mychael had already finished, humming as he strode over to the table and set my food down in front of me. I looked down at my dinner and almost gasped. It looked so good. The rice was fluffy as it peeked out underneath the colorful pile of veggies. I didn't know a simple dish could look so tantalizing. The serving size was a bit heartier than expected. He must have known I was starving. Mychael brought over his own serving of cottage pie as he settled into his seat. Sorry to make you wait. I tried to keep it simple, but filling. Go ahead. Dig in. He didn't have to tell me twice. I jabbed my fork into the dish, scooping up rice with a spoon in my other hand and shoving it into my mouth. Hot! Mychael kept a polite expression, the corner of his mouth lifting as I panted with the food still in my mouth. Okay, so that's when it continues on to the same dialogue. Alright, I'm gonna skip ahead to when he reveals his eyes. Alright, instead of being the way we had been, let's remain calm, like a normal person. I swallowed audibly, willing myself to not look away. He seemed to be holding his breath as I gripped the edge of the table. It felt unsettling every time he blinked those eyes in succession, even when he wasn't looking at me. Was it real? It had to be. Everything about him suddenly made so much more sense. The isolation, the avoidant behavior. He looked freaky, yes, but he also looked sad. I swallowed thickly. I'm not scared. Mychael's many pupils blew wide, dilating like an excited wildcat. It sent a shiver up my spine. Okay. Maybe just a little scared. Sorry. He hastily grabbed an empty plate and hid behind it, shoulders scrunched up despite his stature. Would it help if I just hide it? I could fix my hair like before, if that's what you prefer. His voice was muffled behind the ceramic barrier between us. It was kind of endearing. I slowly reached out to touch his hand, the slight brush of my fingertips making him jump in place. Mychael? Yeah? Can you put that down? He slowly lowered the plate. His eyes were still darted to the side, avoiding me. Can you look at me? Oh no. Don't look at me like that. Sorry, I just can't stop looking. This was so awkward. His hands were shaking. I looked down at the mug, still floating next to him, hanging on for dear life. I reached over and plucked it straight out of his grasp. I tentatively took a sip, noticing how Mychael was watching me over the rim of the mug. The taste was mildly spicy, with an almost earthy bite to it. I recognized it instantly as ginger tea. It's almost room temperature, but it's still pretty good. Huh? You wanted me to try the tea, right? I like it, so thank you. Oh, I'm glad. Mychael relaxed back into his seat, following my lead as I picked up my fork once more. The silence didn't last long as Mychael fidgeted. Are you really okay with this? With me? I gave him a once-over, really taking in his features. It's very different than what I'm used to, but I think I can learn to like it. Is that weird to say? I mean, you're not bad to look at. It's actually kind of, damn it, what do I say? Since I doubt these lead to endings, I'm gonna go with each of these and see what we say. Pretty. You think I'm pretty? Yeah. Oh. My point is, your appearance shouldn't matter. Alright, let's go back. Cool. It's like something out of science fiction. Is that a good thing? Yeah. Oh. My point is, we're gonna go back and get the last one. He's hot. Hot? You're not referring to temperature, are you? No, I am not. Oh. He looked confused, but seemed embarrassed anyway. My point is, your appearance shouldn't matter. You've been nothing but kind to me so far. I'd be the worst kind of person to judge someone based on how they look. I haven't known you that long, but you seem like a good person. You're fine, Mychael. I smiled at him. We're fine. I see. He fidgeted some more before nodding, smiling a bit. Thanks, Cryptid. I'll cherish this moment forever. He beamed at me as he enthusiastically went back to eating his food. That was something. We continued with a bit of small talk, mostly stories about Miette, or snippets from my personal life. Mychael hung on to every word I said, not bothering to elaborate much about himself despite my burning curiosity. I could tell he was extremely insecure about his appearance, so it's probably best I keep my questions to myself for tonight. We cleared up the kitchen in relative silence, Mychael storing away the rest of the pie as I washed the dishes by the sink. Being out here in this remote cabin, I wondered how he had running water. Maybe I'll ask him later. So, thanks for dinner. Thanks for the company. Oh, and please, take the bed tonight. But, you're my guest, and I'm the host. Take the bed, okay? Alright, I'll be out of your hair first thing in the morning. Oh no, we won't. Mychael got quiet, staring at the floorboards. With his hair out of the way, I could finally read his expressions. He did seem upset. Is that okay? I do need your help, though. I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna get lost again on my own. His tail flicked behind him. Yeah, I'll bring you home tomorrow morning. I heaved a sigh of relief. Thanks, Mychael. I'll see you in the morning. Yeah. Good night, Cryptid. Good night, Mychael. He seemed really happy to be able to say that. I plopped myself down onto Mychael's bed, getting comfy beneath the blanket. Mychael was gathering some blankets of his own to make a makeshift bed on the floor in front of the fire. He had an impressive collection of knitted items, a comfortable nest forming in the center of the room. My eyes trailed after his tail, now out in the open as it flicked and swayed. Kinda like a cat. I missed Miette. Now with a full stomach, dozing off came easy. I didn't even realize how tired I was. I listened to the gentle crackling of the fire, my vision darkening. Of course I should have expected this. Good night, cryptid. A soft humming invaded my dreams, stirring me awake. I blinked my eyes open to unfamiliar surroundings, swaddled in a blanket that clearly wasn't mine. Where? Oh. I spotted the familiar figure of my host, seated on a stool in front of the fire, hands deftly working on the green scarf bundled in his lap. His back was towards me, but I caught glimpses of his fingers as the needles softly clicked between the yarn. He looked incredibly adept at using them, the rhythmic movements almost hypnotic as the fibers wound together into an intricate pattern. I slowly stirred into a sitting position, rubbing at my eyes. The movement quickly caught his attention, ear flicking in my direction before his eyes trained onto me. Just like last night, his pupils blew up as we made eye contact. His expression lit up the instant he saw me. Cryptid, hey! I'm glad you're finally awake. You looked so tired. I didn't want to disturb you until you've gotten enough rest. Good morning, Mychael. Good morning, cryptid. Did you sleep well? I was still too groggy to answer his question, a yawn slipping out as I stretched. He smiled kindly, a soft chuckle under his breath. Like a baby, then? He pointed over his shoulder to the door beside the fireplace, tilting his head towards it. You can freshen up in the bathroom if you'd like, while I start on making us some food. I'd have eaten breakfast by now, but I'd want you to join me while the food is still hot. How do eggs and toast sound? I'll get both of these, but sounds delicious. Great. I'll see you in the kitchen then. He tucked away his knitting materials and set it aside. Oh, I also have a surprise for you after breakfast. It's not the most exciting surprise, but... just join me when you're ready. He ducked into the kitchen without another glance. I could hear his boots thud about the floorboards, cabinet opening and closing in succession in the kitchen. I suppose that's my cue. I rolled out of bed, leaving the warmth of Mychael's blankets and trotting over to the door Mychael pointed at. Stepping inside, I didn't know what I was expecting when he said he had a bathroom, but it was surprisingly spacious. Wow, everything's made of wood, that's kind of cool. Everything looked like it was carved and polished out of wood. He seemed to have everything you'd find in a modern bathroom. A sink with a cabinet, a shower and a tub, and even a toilet. Curious, I crept over to the toilet in particular, inspecting it. There wasn't a tank like you'd expect where water should be stored. Instead, there was a compartment to the side full of sawdust and a scoop. I expected it to at least have a bit of a smell, but it was surprisingly odorless. There was even a roll of toilet paper on the side. It was no flushing system, but it was hygienic. Mychael must have done his research. Walking over to the sink, I stared at the faucet before hesitantly twisting it. I jumped when I heard the sound of rushing water pouring in, swirling in the basin before disappearing to who knows where. Wow. Why am I impressed by a damn functioning bathroom sink? I helped with the dishes last night. I already knew Mychael had plumbing. Shaking my head, I finished freshening up and headed to the kitchen. Mychael looked up as I entered, a steaming kettle in his hand with 2 empty mugs on the counter. It might have been the lighting, but he was taller than I remembered. Glancing to the table, I could see he already finished plating up our food. Oh wow, you work fast. Mychael looked proud of himself. Can't have my guests stay on an empty stomach. Go on, have a seat. I'll join you in a moment. I returned his smile and sat down, stomach grumbling as I looked at our plates. Once again, Mychael was generous with the serving sizes. Fat slices of bread were toasted perfectly with crisp, buttered sides. The scrambled eggs looked tantalizing, the smell of savory herbs wafting into my nose. My mouth watered. Mychael set down a steaming mug beside me before settling into his own seat. Peeking above the rim, I could see small flowers floating about, tinting the water yellow. It faintly smelled of apples. I recognized the yellow dried pellets on tea packaging I'd seen before. Oh, chamomile? He nodded. I hope you like it. I'm sure I will. His smile widened, his tail swaying at the tip by his feet. He seemed more relaxed, showing his natural features this morning. Any trace of panic and hesitation from last night were gone, replaced by a look of contentment. Mychael bit into his toast, and I followed suit. The food was as delicious as I expected. The chunk of toast I bit into was heavenly, the butter sweet on my tongue, and the eggs. Something about simple home-cooked food is just the best. Mychael was happy to eat in silence, occasionally looking up at me as I enjoyed my food. He'd smile when our eyes met, his bottom pair narrowing into a happy squint. I wonder if he'd be open to some questions. Hey. Do you mind if I ask? I'm curious about how do you have plumbing in your house? I know it's a silly question, but I can't stop thinking about it. Oh, you were wondering about that? The embarrassed look on my face was probably enough of an answer. Huh. Well, it's nothing fascinating. It's just rainwater I've got stored above the cabin. Just rainwater? He nodded. I detected a hint of pride as he continued. It's actually a recent installment, believe it or not. Granted, the project took a while, gathering materials, figuring out the tools, finding the right instruction manuals. Plus, I had to figure out where to store the water tank. And don't worry, I installed a filtration system, so it's safe for us to use. I check in every few weeks to make sure nothing's contaminated. That sounded daunting. Especially considering he lived all the way out here in the woods. You did all that on your own? I kinda had to. Anyway, it took a whole lot of calibrating and adjusting, but it really worked out. And now that I think about it, I'm glad you get to be comfortable here during your stay too. Does that answer your question? Where do you learn how to do all that? I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. There was a faint hint of exhaustion in his eyes. But to answer your question, I go to libraries a lot. It's where I learned about a majority of things. The fact that he even ventured into buildings at all already surprised me. And if I'm real lucky, they have all these neat DIYs and workshop manuals archived for anyone to browse through. It took a while to figure everything out. A really long time, actually. But hey, I had nothing but time. And it paid off. I'm considering upgrading the toilet next. But for now, the composting setup works fine. Learned about that in an old camping guide. He paused to take a breath, as if he hadn't talked this much in a while. I'm rambling, but that's how I did it. Is there anything else you want to ask? Wait, you've been to libraries? His ears perked up, posture straightening. Oh yeah. I can't tell you enough how much books have helped me. I've made it this far only because I quickly figured out how to read. Well, figured out that I can read. Do you visit often? In my early days, any chance I could get. Nowadays, I stick to my side of the forest, though. Gotta make sure people don't wander too far off than they're meant to. I paused in my chewing at the teasing lilt in his voice. Hey! I'm joking. Anyways, if you're wondering what I do about this, he gestured towards his face. I just have to make sure everything's covered. You'd be surprised how little people pay attention to me when I bundle up just right. Do people not give you trouble? He shrugged nonchalantly. Small-town libraries are usually so empty from my experience, and people just mind their own business there. Huh, I guess that's true. I can't remember the last time I visited a library. I guess libraries would be Mychael's equivalent to the World Wide Web. I should introduce him to the internet sometime. Actually, maybe not. Not without parental controls. Finally satisfied, I nodded and went back to eating my food. Oh, we can ask all of these. Okay. How did you learn to cook? Cottage pie is a pretty complicated recipe. I just wonder if anyone taught you how to cook? I'd be lucky if someone could teach me how to make boiled eggs, Firefly. But it was trial and error, mostly. My earlier endeavors were, pretty much inedible. I picked up a thing or two about cooking, though, so your taste buds aren't gonna fall victim to any nasty creations like in my early days, at least. Speaking of, did you enjoy dinner last night? Of course I did. You're a really good cook, Mychael. I'm glad. It probably wasn't obvious, but I'm really happy I got to cook for you. I don't get guests often, in case you couldn't tell. I should ask for you to cook for me every day then. He grinned at my joke, looking pleased. I'd be happy to. I chuckled as I took another bite. So, what's your favorite thing to cook? He lit up at the question. Fried mushrooms. Fried mushrooms? Yeah. There's plenty to find, and it's easy to make. Huh. I do remember finding a patch of mushrooms yesterday. They smelled pretty funky, though. You remembered that? What was that? Nothing. Anyways, mushrooms were the only thing I had for a while, before figuring out I could eat other stuff like roots and veggies. Do you forage all your ingredients? Mostly. The times I figured out how to catch fish and hunt game were the best of my life. I'll tell you that. My first taste of meat? He did an awkward version of a chef's kiss, as if mimicking something he saw on television once. Mamma mia! Was he trying to say Mamma mia? He continued before I could even dwell on it for a second longer. But nothing beats what you humans are able to make. You guys go nuts with ingredients. Rice was a challenge. It's a precious ingredient, so I have to actually get some from a store. But once I figured out how to make it nice and fluffy, I consider it a special treat. I did a double take. You go to the store? Yeah? Where else would I get it? I thought you would grow it yourself or something? He laughed as I flushed in embarrassment. It's flattering that you think I'm even capable of something that impressive, but no. There's only so much the forest can provide. But what about money? We're talking about human currency, right? Otherwise, how would you even... Do you actually have a job? A thought occurred to me. Or did you steal it? He almost looked offended. Do you take me for a criminal? No. But that would mean... Then how? Mychael bit into his toast, his two eyes winking in mischief. I have my ways, Firefly. What's that supposed to mean? He probably sells his knitted stuff. Anyways, what's it like living in the woods? I still can't believe how cozy you've managed to make it, considering the whole middle of nowhere thing. It wasn't like this when I found it. No? It was a major, fix-her-upper. So the cabin was abandoned. I never would have guessed. Yeah, I'm really happy I get to live somewhere permanent for once. It's not much, but it's home. What's it like? Peaceful, quiet. I do like it a lot. The forest provides me with everything I need. And nobody bothers me for the way I look out here. His ears twitched slightly. Sometimes you just happen to end up where it's most convenient for you and everyone else. The way he avoided my eyes as he said that gave me the impression there's something more to it. Like his home wasn't just out of convenience, but a fear of something else. Rejection, perhaps? Or something worse. Yeah, something worse, seeing as one of the endings we could get was pretty bad. Anyways, I don't really have anything else to say about it, unless there's something specific you want to ask. He doesn't think about his answer much before beaming at me. What about you? I know you've told me a little bit about yourself, but what's it like being you? I scoffed, waving a hand. Please, I'm the least interesting person in this room. Trust me. His eyes were shining in earnest as he leaned forward. Tell me anyway. Oh, well, I told him about my life. At least, the parts I was comfortable with sharing. Just like last night, his eyes didn't leave my face, occasionally darting about my features and interest. The direct ogling was making me nervous, but I suppose I was doing the same exact thing when it was his turn to talk. Eventually, I came to the topic of my job and the woes of living in modern capitalism. I'm a bit jealous. You have the whole cottagecore aesthetic, practically perfect. His face morphed into a confused pout. Cottagecore? I explained to him in my own words. Oh, you're saying you want to live the way I do? Out in the woods? I nodded without hesitation. I mean, I wouldn't mind showing you the ropes. His tone seemed strangely lilted. What do you mean? Never mind. Anyways, I don't get what the appeal is, but it's not easy either, you know. The forest provides, but it's up to me to make use of it. Starting out was... A dark look crossed over his face, as if reliving a bitter memory. Rough. But I'm built for survival. I feel like asking him to elaborate would make things awkward. I decide to veer the topic into a different direction. Doesn't it get lonely? Sometimes. But I'm used to it. He smiled, eyes lighting up. Besides, I have you at the moment, don't I? I never thought I'd enjoy having someone around. You must be really special. I'm starting to know a lot more about Mychael. He didn't directly say it, but it felt like he was lonelier than he was letting on. Not to mention how he managed to make a home for himself, all on his own. I had to wonder if he had anyone at all. Do you have any family around? Family? His expression turned solemn for a moment before he looked sheepish. Remind me how that works again. I get the concept based on some books I've read, but I don't have what you call parents, if that's what you're asking. My mouth dropped open in shock. No parents. He shrugged and took another bite of toast. Not that I recall. And then what's that like? Living with so many people like you in such close proximity? Huh? That's how it works, right? You and other humans living in one house? And you have this, Dena thing that makes you relate to the rest? That's what makes a family, right? Was he talking about DNA? His definition threw me off, but I had to answer somehow. Not just that. Family is... Actually, I guess they are just people you live in close proximity to, whether by choice or not. To be fair, I think the second one would be more my choice, but let's try the other two first and then go with the middle one. Actually, I guess they are just people you live in close proximity to, whether by choice or not. Mychael's ears flattened instantly, followed with a look of discomfort on his face. I see. All the more reason I don't need family then. I don't understand how you humans can be around each other so much. If it was me in that situation, I don't even want to think about it. I was taken aback by that. Do you hate being around humans? He straightened in his seat. No, that's not what I meant. How do I explain this? He waved at the air while his tail flicked aggressively. I can be around humans because we're so different. Your presence near me doesn't affect me at all. But, say you're like me. He gestured wildly at himself, as in like me. I might get a bit dangerous. I couldn't ever imagine associating Mychael with the word dangerous, but he seemed dead serious. What are you saying? Like if I had horns and a tail like you? He laughed under his breath, but it sounded forced. Exactly that, actually. Are you saying there's more like you out there? He didn't seem like he wanted to talk about it anymore, so I cleared my throat and changed the topic. To be fair, everyone's definition of family could be different. Alright, let's go back. People you're related to, like your mom and your dad and your siblings and relatives. He nodded at my explanation. I couldn't help thinking that he looked somewhat relieved. If that's the case, I definitely don't have family around. As far as relations go, I'm the only one of me there is and will ever be. I'm wondering if he killed his siblings. Seeing his other response was quite aggressive. He seemed determined about that fact. So I assume you're not a family person then? He looked amused by my question. Definitely not. I found that surprising. He seems like the type. But I guess I couldn't just assume that. Although, he twiddled with his mug. His brows furrowed as he stared at it. It does sound nice, knowing you have that undeniable bond with someone. Something to link you with others just underneath the surface. That kind of relationship, that makes it unique and precious, wouldn't it? He looked at me then, his eyes almost full of longing. But some things just aren't meant for me. What do you mean? He smiled, shrugging. Nothing you have to worry about, Firefly. What a strange man. Alright, now let me go back and get the middle one. People that you love and care about, who love and care about you too. He seemed intrigued. Is that so? That does sound nice. Is there anyone that you love and care about? Of course I do. I have a family. Heck, I'd even call my cat family. Right. Obviously. And this is the same for all families? I bit my lip, pondering the question. It would be naive to think that. A lot of families do love and take care of one another, but not everything's perfect. Sometimes that love can be misplaced, or taken advantage of, or even abused. Mychael looked thoughtful. So it starts with love. I've read some stories about that. Love, I mean. Though certain feelings just don't make sense to me. At least from a reader's perspective. I guess you'd have to experience it for yourself to understand. He stared at me, unblinking for a moment. Yeah, you might be right. I never considered that. Then again, who would bother loving a monster like me, huh? Me! I would! I love you, Mychael! What? You're not a monster. I look like one, don't I? That's besides the point. You're not denying it, though. I'm just saying, it's okay. You don't have to lie to me. So, family? Right. Alright, let me see what happens when we say the other one, the loving friends and stuff. Yeah, I love my friends. Your friends can be considered family too? Yeah, I don't see why we have to be related to be family. I even consider my cat family. Oh. Okay, yeah. To be fair, everyone's definition of family could be different. What about you? What's your definition of family? Mychael looked surprised I asked him that question. I don't know. I've never had one, and I think your answer just confused me more. Well, if you ever figure it out, let me know. Mychael stared at the remaining crumbs on his plate before he nodded, avoiding my gaze. Sure. We both fell quiet, the lulling conversation blanketing us in a comfortable silence. All this family talk, it reminded me of the reason why I'm out here in the first place. To look for my beloved cat, a sight I might never be able to see again. I couldn't help the sinking feeling in my chest, the growing pit in my stomach. I wish I was able to find Miette. You would have loved her. Mychael opened his mouth to say something, but changed his mind. My voice warbled as a lump formed in my throat. sorry. I just miss her so much. I keep thinking if I just went looking for her sooner, maybe I would have been able to find her by now. He was quick to speak up. You did your best, Firefly. No one else could have gone to the lengths that you did. You almost risked getting yourself. I'm sure wherever she is, she's doing okay. Oh, I know by the first ending we got that those mushrooms got her. You really think so? I know so. His voice was laced with a confident assurance, despite the worried look on his face. I nodded with a quiet sniff. I hope so. She's just important to me, is all. Mychael looked like he wanted to reach across the table for me, but sighed instead. Actually, I'm sorry, Cryptid. I should tell you. Maybe I do have a family, now that I think about it. That was the surprise I mentioned before. Wait, really? He nodded. Are you done? I could take you to go meet them right now. I looked down at my plate. During the conversation, I didn't even realize I'd finished the meal. Yeah, I'm done. His movements were quick, stacking our empty plates and mugs and setting them in the sink. He grasped my hand before I could say another word, pulling me up and heading outside with me in tow. As the door swung open, I could only see forest ahead before he tugged me along as he rounded the side of the cabin. Almost immediately, my peripherals were assaulted with greens on both sides. I figured he was the type to grow his own vegetables, but to see it in person as confirmation was a whole different thing. With Mychael leading the way, I had only a moment to take in the surrounding garden. He had marked the different plots with messy drawings on small wooden signs jutting out of the dirt. Carrots, lettuce, potatoes, trellises of tomatoes and beans. I wouldn't have been able to differentiate one plant to another without the signs. Even the chamomile from our tea just now grew abundant close by, the small buds swaying gently. I bumped into Mychael as he suddenly stopped, the man looking over his shoulder to beam at me. We reached what looked like a fenced-off area with a bit of netting stretching all around. He stepped aside, watching me as my eyes widened. Chickens! 3 fat, happy little hens strutted about like they owned the place. As he entered through the gate, the hens swarmed over in an instant at Mychael's feet, surrounding him and pecking at his boots. Ladies, meet Cryptid. Cryptid, these are Mawar, Sansuyu, and Primrose. Or as I like to call them, Marmar, Sunny, and Rosie. He ducked to pick one up, fluffing up her feathers as he smiled. That's so cute. He gently scratched at the hen's little head, which I assumed was Rosie. She practically melted at his pampering, eyes sliding shut. The other 2 flapped their wings in a huff and went about their business once more. Mychael leaned closer, beckoning me to pet Rosie. She was so soft. Rosie's the oldest. She doesn't lay eggs anymore, but I couldn't bring myself to, you know. So I brought her some friends. Marmar came first. Sunny's a more recent addition. What do you think? Do we make a good family? I laughed and nodded, watching as Rosie nuzzled into Mychael's chest. I didn't expect chickens of all things. Were you expecting something else? I was expecting it to be someone else. Oh. No. When you look like me, people generally don't stick around. There's that negative self-talk again. You don't even look that bad. His eyes flicked to mine, a look of pleasant surprise crossing his face. You really think so? Yeah? You can't be that naive, Firefly. I mean it. He let out a polite scoff as he scratched Rosie's head absently. You genuinely believe people wouldn't run away at the sight of me? Well, I didn't. His smile turned smug, the corners of his lips lifting just a bit. Of course you didn't. Because you couldn't. Shoot. He wasn't wrong. Okay, so he's not referring to the hypnosis. I was pretty much paralyzed in his bed when we first met. But I still don't think you look that bad. Is that so? Describe me then. What? You heard me. Look at me and describe what you see. For a second I thought he was being condescending, but looking at his eyes, all I could see was a bit of playfulness. He looked at me expectantly, eyes shining. You're tall. Go on. You have blonde hair. He gave an amused squint, his left ear twitching. What else? You have green skin and a tail. He chuckled, though there was no malice in it. But that's not all, is it? He definitely expected me to say it straight. Oh, fine. So you don't look human. So what? He hummed absently. As I was saying, animals generally don't care if you look like a monster. My heart twisted at his words. His passive nonchalance somehow makes it even worse. Mychael, you're not a tug at my shoelace caught my attention. A light brown hen stood at my feet, her beady eyes shining. Sunny flapped her wings almost expectantly. Oh, I think she likes you. Go ahead, pick her up, gently like how I did with Rosie. I hesitated, but slowly lowered myself to cup Sunny by her wings. Lifting her up, she was quick to nestle herself until she was comfortably tucked under my arms. I could feel her wings wiggling as she nuzzled into my side. So cute. Michael's gaze softened as I cooed at the chicken, mimicking her small clucks. So, did it help? Cheering you up, I mean. Oh, so that's what this was. A fuzzy feeling bloomed in my chest as he looked at me, chicken in his arms and concern on his face. A little bit, yeah. Only a little. I snickered, rolling my eyes. Okay, mister, a lot. That's more like it. His proud grin was infectious. I couldn't help smiling back. We spent a bit more time with the hens, petting them until they were satisfied. Mychael even showed me the spot where they like to have their dust baths. Little chicken-shaped holes scattered about in the dry soil underneath the coop. Once the gals had enough of us, we refilled their water container before leaving. He left them some treats, procuring them straight out of his pockets before shutting the gate. The girls' excited chatter over the food faded as we made our way back inside his cabin. I sat by his bed as he crouched down by the fireplace. From the window I could see the sun outside was getting higher. It might be close to afternoon now. Hey, Mychael? He looked up at me from where he was stoking the fire. I rubbed my arms, unsure where to place my gaze. I think it's a good time for me to go now. My expression fell, but I caught myself quickly. He'd done his best to cheer me up. It'll be inconsiderate towards him to leave in a bad mood. I might have to accept that I'll never see him yet again. I think it's better if I focus on moving on. He was quiet for a moment, hands in his pockets. If you say so. But you don't have to leave just yet. We've still got plenty of daylight left, and there's some places I want to show you. Won't you come with me? I had to decide. I promise I'll take you home right after. He took another step towards me. Please, Firefly? I didn't want to say it, but he looked desperate. Okay. I'll go with you. The joy on his face was shining bright as a billboard. Great! Let me get our stuff. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with my backpack in one hand and a satchel in the other. He passed it to me as he walked by towards the front door. I almost forgot I had this. Rifling through my bag, I found cat treats, Miette's collar, a broken compass, and my phone. The battery was dead, though. Still, that's one less thing to worry about. I checked through my bag once more, finding an empty water bottle. I frowned, distinctly remembering I forgot to pack water for my trip. Or at least, Mychael told me I did. Didn't I? You ready? Oh my gosh! He's so cute! I look up at Mychael, startling when I spotted the large crossbow in his hands. He followed my gaze and shrugged, albeit with a nervous smile, like he had been caught doing something he shouldn't be. He quickly strapped the weapon to his back and out of sight. Don't worry, I'm not going to use it unless necessary. I would hope not. He chuckled at my indignant tone. You think I'm gonna let you out into the woods without guaranteeing your safety? I made a promise to get you home, so this is just an extra precaution. You don't think it's a bit much? Better safe than sorry, Firefly. He did have a point. If anyone knew these woods and the kind of danger it held, it'd be Mychael. I glanced over him again, noticing he'd changed his oversized cardigan for something more outdoor appropriate. His eyes tracked mine, his shoulders stiffening as a tint spread across his face. So, shall we? He opened the door and waved me out. I stepped outside to glance around his front yard. The landscape wasn't anything special. It was actually left quite plain, just thick with trees and foliage. Only paths of dirt and flattened grass clued me into the routes Mychael would use as he comes and goes, webbing in all directions trailing to the front door. Come to think of it, anyone passing through would be able to spot Mychael's house if they squinted through the trees carefully enough. I guess he was right that nobody walked through this area in years. I heard a lock turn before Mychael joined me by my side. He smiled wide before tipping his head in a direction, making sure I was behind him before he started walking. I was hesitant, but followed suit. It was quiet as we traveled, save for the sounds of nature calling out around us. The weather was bright and warm, the sun casting pretty rays through the gaps in the trees. I had to admit, enjoyable as it was, the bird calls and rustling of leaves as we walked somewhat brought bad memories. Yesterday was miserable. I was lost, tired, and hungry. There was a chance I wasn't going to make it out alive. I watched Mychael's back as he led the way, the man barely paying any mind to his surroundings. His ear would occasionally flick back in my direction, but overall he seemed confident on where to go. Having Mychael as my guide home was definitely a great assurance. He made me even more grateful he'd found me when he did. I sighed and shook off the negative feelings, keeping pace while appreciating the fresh air. I stepped up next to my companion, willing my voice to speak after plenty of silence. This is actually kind of nice. A good old nature walk. I coughed into my fist, feeling embarrassed. I don't go outside as often as I should. Mychael smiled kindly. I'm glad I get to bring you then. Yeah, feels different when you know where you're going. Actually, where are we going? He sensed my nervousness and laughed. Don't worry. We're almost there. I looked up and saw it before he even pointed it out. A clearing in the distance, the trees growing strangely sparse in that area. I held my breath as I noticed the grass slowly starting to dot with flowers, delicate blooms swaying here and there in the breeze. As we got closer, Mychael watched me as my mouth dropped open, a knowing twinkle in his eyes. It was breathtaking. A secluded little meadow of flowers, lit up by beams of light, making the scenery resemble a page from a forgotten fairy tale. Butterflies flitted about in pairs, their wings flickering and complementing the surreal yet enchanting ambiance of the whole place. Mychael let me gawk some more before walking ahead, turning to face me before sitting down to relax on the grass. He slipped off his satchel and laid it on the grass by his side, along with his crossbow. I blinked out of my stupor and approached him, spinning around to drink in everything before plopping myself down next to him. So, what do you think? Pretty, isn't it? I nodded dumbly before finally glancing to face him, the man's gaze on me softening as our eyes met. A butterfly approached us rapidly, making me flinch on instinct. It landed on his finger as he held it out, its wings flapping gently. He smiled at the dainty creature, a fond look in his eyes before he held it out towards me. Do you like butterflies, Cryptid? Well, I have a feeling that none of these actually have any bearing on endings. Plus, I think I got all of the bad ones. So, let's see. Let's go with the answer that's not my actual answer first. And then we will, go up from there. I'm scared of them, actually. Mychael's eyes widened, a look of guilt flashing across his face. He slowly lowered his hand. The butterfly, Menace, still perched on his fingertip. Oh no, this place has to be your worst nightmare. I'm sorry. We can leave right now if you want to. I inhaled a breath before shaking my head. I still want to be here. It's okay, Mychael. I eyed the insect crawling on his finger, wings gently flapping. I leaned over to Mychael slowly. Promise you'll keep them off me, though? Mychael looked at me with a playful grin. I won't let a single wingtip even brush you, Firefly. He sounded so determined I had to snort with laughter, forgetting my fears in an instant. Alright, let me go back and get the other choices. I think they're okay. Mychael nodded, rotating his finger to watch the creature flutter its wings. I think they're fascinating. They're, metamorphosis? He beamed, nodding excitedly. Oh, he's so cute. I'm sorry. I can't get over how cute he is. Metamorphosis. My cheeks puffed in, holding back a laugh. Mychael knew he fumbled, but grinned anyway. That word you said. It's amazing to have that ability of being reborn into a different creature. The chance to look different. The chance to look beautiful. But you are beautiful, Mychael. I scanned his face thoughtfully before pulling my knees up to my chest. It kind of is. Alright, now let's go back and say we love butterflies. I like them. I'm fond of them. I should be. As I'm a moth, we are related. I love butterflies. I do. I think they're so pretty. This is amazing, Mychael. His usual prideful smirk was absent, replaced instead with a shy smile. I'm glad you like it. The sun was at its peak now, the air getting warmer as minutes passed. The leafy canopy over us provided enough cover for us not to overheat. Mychael picked a flower with his other hand and placed it in my palm, his tail looping loosely around us both as my cheeks darkened. He closed his eyes and leaned back further, the butterfly still resting on his hand. My ears caught a soft rumbling before I realized it was coming from his direction. Can he purr? I almost wanted to ask, but I didn't want to ruin the moment. My gaze dropped as I twirled the flower in my hand, holding the stem delicately. The gesture felt platonic, but also romantic. I wonder if Mychael was even interested in relationships. He'd been alone most of his life. He'd probably get tired of my presence sooner or later. Before I could contemplate further, the butterfly on Mychael's finger took off, my gaze trailing after it as it left the sunlight and flew away into the woods. Which reminds me, Mychael? Don't get me wrong, this place is stunning. But is it okay if we go now? He straightened from his relaxed slouch. Why? We just got here. I chewed on my lip, hesitating. I love it here. I do. But I want to go home, Mychael. Mychael studied my face. Cryptid? Do you want to leave me that badly? What? No! I need time to recover from losing Miette. I know it's silly and dramatic, but knowing she won't be there when I get home, I trailed off, another shot of guilt and regret filling my chest. I just need to get it done with. I feel a hand rubbing my back. Mychael nodded slowly, looking me in the eyes. His smile was gentle. That's okay. I understand. But maybe this place can help with that. It's a nice spot to nap in, isn't it? I picked it out just for you. Why don't you go ahead and lie down? His words made you sway, a sudden bout of sleepiness weighing heavy over your eyelids. He was right. It is a nice spot to nap in. Why were you in such a hurry? You yawned, laying back to stretch in the grass. The warmth from the ground seeped through your clothes, lulling you into a sense of comfort and safety. There you go. Just spend some time with me. Just a bit more. Please. Oh, here's something else I could show you. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a wooden box. It's called a kalimba. I blinked slowly, clarity coming back as I shook my head to pay attention. The box fit neatly in his hands, Mychael holding it as if he were typing on a phone. I could see it had a hole in the middle, with thin strips of metal arranged in a triangular shape over it. What does it do? A proud smirk spread across his face. I'll show you. He began to pluck at the metal prongs, a gentle ringing sound resonating with every flick of his thumbs. I couldn't recognize the song. He might have made it up himself. I closed my eyes, enjoying the tune. Mychael gave a soft chuckle as he kept playing. Relax and listen as long as you'd like, Firefly. A few minutes passed by with Mychael plucking away at the instrument, the two of us sunbathing like two cats on a Sunday afternoon. I must have dozed, as the next thing I knew I felt a nudge on my shoulder. Comfy? He chuckled low when I refused to open my eyes. I mean, if you'd rather stay. My eyes shot open, my whole body jerking to sit up. Mychael glanced at me, kalimba in his lap, and half a forget-me-not chain in his hands. What? I shook my head, slapping at my cheeks. I can't believe I fell asleep. I still... It's all right. He cut me off. His sigh was heavy. I was hoping... Never mind. He patted my shoulder, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. Thanks for being here with me. Maybe we can do this again sometime. If I ever see you again. Let's get you home. He rolled over to his feet and stood up, brushing off dirt and fixing his satchel. Come on. We gathered our things and set off into the unknown once more. Well, unknown to me at least. Mychael seemed to have a map of this place ingrained into his brain. You seem a bit sleepy still, so let's freshen up, okay? We walked a bit further away from the clearing, coming across a river. Compared to the rest of the path we walked, the area was shaded considerably with the thick canopy of leaves over us. The flowing water looked inviting as I kneeled down by the bank, Mychael idling close by. I dipped my hands in, eager to wash my face. The water was refreshing and cooled my heated skin in the afternoon sun. I pulled my hands back to see Mychael peeking over my shoulder into my reflection, smiling with a faraway look on his face. He startled as our gazes met, irises darting away to look at himself instead. Immediately, his expression changed. His ears flattened, a grimace twisting his features as his lips curled back. I'd never seen such contempt in his eyes as I did then, staring at his own visage. He stepped away, retreating underneath the cover of a tree to lean against it with crossed arms. He doesn't notice me watching. I patted my hands dry on my shirt and approached him. You ready? Yeah. I stopped him before he could turn to leave. He looked at me with a questioning look, tipping his head. I hesitated. I wasn't the type to speak my mind directly. Most of the time I'd keep things to myself and let things go by. But nobody should look at themselves and have that sort of reaction. Hey, you're not, I might as well be frank. You're not a monster, Mychael. He looked taken aback. What makes you say that? I saw how you were looking at yourself. How you talk about yourself. None of it is true. I keep telling you, you're more than just your appearance. I don't know what compelled me to do it, but I did it anyway. I reached for his hands and held them between us. His eyes widened at the contact. All it took was a day with you and, truthfully, I think you're the most amazing person I've ever met. He made a choked noise. I'm just some old nobody compared to you. That's not... Shut up and listen. He promptly shut his mouth with an audible click of his teeth. From where I stand, you saved my life. You've taken care of me better than I could ever ask for from a stranger. That already proves to me you're not the monster you think you are. You're charming, you're smart, you're sweet. You're a million more wonderful things, but you are not a monster. I take a second to compose myself, lowering my voice. You may look different, Mychael, but guess what? His multiple eyes stared into mine, ears flattening as if fearing the worst. That makes you all the more beautiful to me. His breath hitched. I could feel his hands squeezing mine, fingers trembling. It was like he forgot how to breathe. I realized my hands were getting sweaty. I pulled away hastily, scratching at my neck and avoiding his gaze. I could feel the blood rush to my face. I could dunk my whole head in the river, and it'd probably let off steam. Sorry, that came out of nowhere. I just didn't feel right if I didn't say anything. I hope you understand. An awkward silence passed between the two of us. Anyways. I caught him mumbling under his breath. I can't let you leave. What? I said you can't leave. I mean, not without your cat, right? I frowned. I've already tried, Mychael. Like you said, it was stupid for me to just wander off in the woods as if I'd find her through dumb luck. He paused, his fists clenching. But I haven't. Huh? I haven't tried. I know these woods better than anyone. I can try looking for her. But that means you can't leave yet. Mychael, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think I should stick around any longer. I have a job and responsibilities and... You hissed in pain, a sudden migraine overcoming your senses. You felt sick, your stomach wringing itself into knots. It felt like the world was warping around you as your legs wobbled. Your body buckled over and you resisted the urge to vomit. Mychael caught you as you slumped gracelessly to the ground, your head resting on his shoulder as he cradled you close. Hey, you don't look so good. Your vision doubled as he spoke, his speech oozing together, words into an indecipherable mess. Are you okay? You need me to carry you home? Well, gee, I think, yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, no problem. Just hang in there. Hang on to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this. If I could just one more day with you, I'd be the happiest man alive. Here we are. Let's get you tucked in. I should give you some clothes, especially since you'll be staying another night. You're okay with that, aren't you? That's all from day 2 of Mushroom Oasis demo. Oh my gosh, that was so good. More updates coming in the future. I will absolutely tell the creator what I think of this game. Thank you for playing. I gotta say that was an incredibly good and fun demo. Mushroom Oasis is definitely an interesting yandere visual novel. Firstly, the visuals are absolutely gorgeous. Everything is very vibrant, and I love the way the colors shifted when the character was under Mychael's influence, or inversely when the player character rejected him and things got dark and oppressive and it's just very scary. But the use of colors and lighting was fantastic. And also I like how the colors of the dialogue shifted too, depending on if we were under his influence or not, or under the other mushroom's influence. I don't know why I said other mushroom. I don't necessarily know if he is, but he kind of seems like he has mushroomy qualities. On top of that, I adored Mychael's design. He is an utterly adorable creature. And the way he emotes with his ears is so cute. It's really well done. You don't even have to see his eyes or facial expressions to know what he's feeling. Of course, it does help that his coloration changes slightly too. But when we do see his face and those adorable eyes, all of them, his expressions were just excellent. Mychael was just an incredibly appealing looking character. And even his wild or hypnotic expressions were truly nice to look at. And the story was just as delightful as the visuals. Although I am sad that the player character lost their cat, who it seems likely has been lost to those purple mushrooms. I can't say for certain, but it does seem very likely. But the rest of the premise was very interesting too. And along with the story, it was very kind of scary and interesting to see the way that, especially in the beginning, Mychael played upon both our physical and emotional vulnerabilities. Like, he never seems like he entirely has our best interests at heart, but it is interesting to see how he reacts when we either accept him or reject him. As an aside, when we reject him, the endings are pretty brutal, and I did not particularly enjoy the ending where we killed him. That was really rough, because for as much as he manipulates us, he doesn't seem like he deserves anything close to that. And I have to wonder what happens to the player character after that if they get overtaken by those purple mushrooms again. But I guess we'll never know. Of course, the most fun part of the story was getting to know about Mychael and seeing how his low self-esteem warps his desires when we are kind to him. He's a nice character overall, but the fact that he is so starved for affection and decides to basically latch on to every bit of kindness that we give him does make him a little bit terrifying. And it is scary that he is able to exert control over the player character in a way that basically hypnotizes them, which is actually kind of one of my fears, losing a sense of self. So that definitely put this game kind of into the horror sphere for me. And you know what? I appreciate that. I find that yandere stuff should be horrific, at least to an extent. And you know, I'm sure that other yanderes wish that they had Mychael's powers so that they can control their love interest. But that's neither here nor there. I am still hoping for a happy ending. I'm not sure if that's what we're gonna get, but Mychael does seem like a truly sweet character, and the story seems like it could go in that direction, but Mychael's motivations were not entirely good, so it's hard to say. Anyhow, I am sincerely looking forward to seeing where this story goes. It was a delight to play through days 1 and 2, and there's a good chance that things will either get scarier or sweeter, depending on what happens. So I hope y'all are looking forward to that as much as I am. And if you made it this far, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this visual novel as much as I did, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more of me but you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. I upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, as well as extras and shorts randomly throughout the week. I also stream on Twitch. Recently it's been kind of Fridays and Saturdays, but I am getting Thursdays into the mix now too. So if you want to see me live, come on by then. And I hope to see you all next time. Bye!